to Buy Like a Guy. This is On the Rocks, where I, Andy Kane from Kane & Kane Jewelers, give a little bit of diamond information, and then we're going to pair it with something from our buddy Jeff, and we're going to continue with bourbons today. This is the Wisconsin Straight Bourbon Whiskey from Wallersheim Distillery. I really like their little story too that I read and heard about from Jeff, so we'll get to that in just a second. But first, let's do our Diamonds 101, and today we're just going to talk about the parts of a diamond, something you probably rarely think about, but I'm just going to let you know what the parts of the diamond are. We'll do a little screen switch here, and let me walk you through it. Okay, so here's a diagram of a round brilliant diamond, the ones that I was talking about last week. There are other shapes, of course, but we're going to focus on the round to talk about the parts of a diamond. And I just, as a side note, I really like round diamonds, especially when they're cut really well. So, first part of the diamond that we're going to talk about is the table. And that, of course, as you can see here, is the largest facet on the diamond. The table is very important because it lets a lot of light in, and it's also important that it's neither too big nor too small, but just right. Also, when we're talking about sort of the facets or the parts of a diamond, just remember that every single part is connected to every other part. So if this table gets too large, right, it means all these facets around here are going to have to get smaller to accommodate it. The opposite is true. If it's a little bit too small, that means these facets are going to get much bigger, and that all has to do with the performance of the diamond. Remember last week I talked about how important proportions are, and it's very, very true, especially when it comes to the size of the table. So all of these facets are interconnected. You move one part, another part's going to have to move or be altered. So the top half of the diamond is called the crown. And again, if you'll recall from last week, what does the crown do, or what are all these facets for? These are the windows, right? And what do windows do? Windows let light into the diamond. So it's very important that these are proportioned well and aligned very well. And the better that they are proportioned and aligned, the better the diamond is at bringing light into it and also reflecting light back out. So that was the top half of the diamond. The bottom half of the diamond is called the pavilion, as you can see right here. And so, my pen is not working here. Okay, so there is the bottom half, and as you'll notice, the alignment. The bottom half, remember, what are the bottom half of the diamond for? These are the mirrors. So these take the light that enters, right, and they reflect the light back out, especially when a diamond is cut extremely well. We don't want the pavilion to be too deep, which happens. These are diamonds that weigh more but don't sparkle as well. Or we don't want it too shallow, right? These diamonds will weigh less, but they tend to be sort of, wider looking or bigger across the top. But they also, both of these are missing the white hot angle of the mirror that helps the diamond to really pop when you look at it. Bottom here is a culet. We still talk about culets, even though most diamonds don't even have a culet anymore. It was really something, back in time where cutters would put a little flat spot. They'd cut this little point off right here. So it'd be flat. And you can see that really if you look at like grandmas or great grandmas or whatever, someone's older diamond. Sometimes you can look into it and you'll see this big, black dot, and that is typically the culet. So like I said, culets really aren't that common these days because cutting has really evolved. Especially when you're talking about some of the better diamond cutting houses in the world. So, okay, and then so the last part of it is the girdle, which is this part right here, obviously. That separates the top half of the diamond, right? That's the girdle there. The top half of the diamond from the bottom half of the diamond, and it is very important that the girdle is neither too big nor too small. Obviously, I get these pictures from Hearts on Fire, who I love. Well, sometimes the girdles can be like really thick, bulky parts of the diamond, and what that does typically is makes a really thick diamond. It adds weight to it, but it certainly does not add anything as far as beauty is concerned, and it also can be a really hard for proper setting if the girdle is too fat. There's other girdles too that are like razor thin, like super thin, and that is no good either because those are more susceptible to chipping, and once again for the setter it really doesn't do them any favors because it's hard to set those. So just like the table, just like all the other facets on the diamond, the girdle needs to be just right, and that's really going to help, again, with the performance of the diamond as well as the wearability. And the last part here is really just pointing out that the facets, every little plane on the diamond, these are the little cuts. This is how I describe it. These are the little cuts that look like mirrors. So this is where it all kind of comes together. You want the alignment to be great. You want the depth of the pavilion to be right. You want the crown on the top to be right? Neither too big or too thin or too deep or too shallow, not a thick girdle, alignment. These things all sort of come together, and that's what makes the difference between a diamond that really performs well and sparkles like crazy, or it's kind of a lifeless stone. And this is kind of how we ended up on the whole bourbon thing in the first place, is because it is really about the abilities of the distiller or the diamond cutter or the winemaker or the brewer. All stuff really, really matters. Okay, so that's the diamond portion. Now we're going to move on over to the bourbon portion. But before I do that, I just like to point out that I find the similarities between the diamond cutter's ability and the distiller's ability or the brewer's ability or the winemaker's ability or the cigar roller's ability. The human element really is ultimately the major difference from one product that we consume to another. And so very true in the worlds of bourbons as well as the diamond world. So now you know the parts of a diamond. Let's talk about this whiskey right here. It is, like I said before, it is the Wisconsin Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It's kind of I like the little story on the back. It's from the Wallersheim Distillery. And Jeff picked this for a reason because it smells like super good. But the part that I really like is that they source the grains for this bourbon. They source it from Wisconsin farmers. I love that stuff. Like, what a cool farm to table approach. So I also like this. No two barrels are the same, so they're very distinct, and they're very high rye, just like last week's. And also, I'm going to put the details of the Wallersheim distillery below, because what they have there is that the details of each barrel is on the website. So wicked cool, I think. I don't know. I went into like a Boston thing. I had buddies that used to say wicked cool all the time, or wicked other things. So I just popped out. Maybe because I'm going to see him this weekend. So this bourbon here is perfect for sipping and also for classic whiskey cocktails. Well, we are in Wisconsin, so the old-fashioned can see that happening. Didn't really think you'd take like a really great bourbon and mix it with something, but again, we learn something every single day, don't we? So there's brown sugar and maple in the nose, high rye, as Jeff's pointing out here, and dry finish and a little bit spicy. So let's do the nose thing, all right? I'm getting better at this. I think the brown sugar for sure, and the maple. And now let's take a little splash here and check out the spice and the dry finish. Let's try this. Okay, that went right up my nose. Woo! As my neighbor says, that's a good burn. Holy smokes. Very good burn. So for sure, I'm giving this a thumbs up as well. Jeff never disappoints. I love the idea that each bottle is, its barrel is numbered, so by hand, 16195 for this. It's 4 years old, and the proof's a bit up there. It's 125, so that's could be good or bad. Again, depends on whose hands it is in, So thank you so much. I hope you guys learned a little bit about diamonds. I think you did. Once again, if you want to know more about this bourbon, you got to go see Jeff. Jeff is like the man. And thanks to the folks at Wallersheim Distillery for making something so delicious. This is a great bourbon. So, as usual, I'm going to finish it. Thanks so much. On the Rocks, Buy Like a Guy, Cane and Cane, Jeff Spirits on Main, among other people. So, have yourself a great week, and I will see you again next time. I want to say the first drink is a little bit shocking, right? But the second one, it's so much smoother, maybe because I was prepared for it.
but this is like super, super good.
Here's to you, Wallersheim. Here's to you, Jeff. Here's to diamond aficionados everywhere. Thank you so much for tuning again to Buy Like a Guy and our On the Rocks segment where we talk about diamonds and we share a little drink. Peace to you.